Hello and welcome to Time to Get Fit. I'm John Pearlstone. I'm a trainer and fitness consultant with over 20 years experience in the strength, conditioning, and fitness industry. This show focuses more on the last 7 years when I discovered the power of timing for weight loss, fitness, and an amazing relationship with food. In 2008, I founded the Eating and Exercise Timing Fitness Plan to help other people see the same sort of amazing results I was able to accomplish in my first year using timing. And it's been very successful since that time. And in the last year, I actually put a book together that will help people understand the basic timing and concepts and principles called It's Not What You Eat, It's When You Eat It. So we're going to take a step back. You're in for a treat. We have a very special Time to Get Fit tonight. I'm going to tell you a little story. And this story, you might even think of it like a bedtime story. I want it to be something that you tell your kids, but not to help put them to sleep, but to wake them up, and maybe to wake yourselves up as well. And that is, we're going to introduce the first Eat Pain-Free guideline from the Eat book. It's Not What You Eat, It's When You Eat It. It's called Yo-Yo Must Go. And I am so convinced that this information is life-changing that I'm going to say that right up there, up front. This, I can tell you right now, I would not have been successful in losing weight and keeping it off without the information you're about to hear. And I would represent anybody who listens with an open mind will be unable to find any reason not to find a major change in their philosophy about the way they feel about weight loss and fitness and the way to approach it. So that's a big challenge to put that out there. So let's get right into it and see what you decide. First, let's take a look at a very, very busy set of graphs. And you can decide, taking a look at this, what similarity you see in these graphs. But to guide you through, take a look at how they start at each one and how they finish. And what you find is a check mark pattern. Every single one shows it. Every one goes down, then goes back up. What that represents is a summary of every single study that's been done on every diet that people have tried to lose weight. And I, as part of the Eat Fitness Plan, have coined a name for that. It is called a checkmark from hell diet. Why would it be a checkmark from hell diet? Let's take a look at the science behind what's going on that creates that name and justifies it. See if any of this sounds at all familiar to you. You start a diet, you're all excited, you want to see the transformation, you lose some weight. Many people lose weight very quickly, in fact. But after a while, you kind of miss those foods you love, you kind of miss those portions you love, and you decide, I don't necessarily love this diet so much anymore. And during the course of the first year or so, you start to gain a little bit of that weight back. Okay, some people it's a little sooner, some people who are a little bit more disciplined, it's a little bit later, but roughly that first year, you're gaining weight back instead of losing more. Well, the studies all consistently show that within 5 years of starting that diet, that answer that was going to take you where you wanted to go, you are going to weigh at least as much as you did when you started that diet, and more likely, you're going to weigh more. That's what every piece of research out there says, and I think anyone could comfortably agree that that would be a very apt name to call it a check mark from hell. So let's take a look at what the takeaways are from that basic concept. And that is, it's clinically proven that every single diet that you know, and we're going to be specific about what diets we're talking about here, is 100% guaranteed that by 5 years you're going to weigh as much, if not more, than when you started that diet. And then number two, and I think this is the one that people need to hear loud and clear. A lot of these bedtime story points I want you to just drive home to yourself and your kids and anyone who will listen. It doesn't matter how fast you lose the weight. It means nothing to where you're going to end up in 5 years. So you have to ask yourself, do I want to see weight loss in 5 years? That's important because it may not be the greatest thing to do to dive and get about 30 pounds off or 10 or 20, wherever you're after tomorrow or this month, if you're looking for something 5 years from now. That's what check marks from hell are all about. Let's turn to our good friends in the world of science who basically have built my plan. I rely on science. Other people want to make excuses and say they're jaded and they have all kinds of conflicts. I'll look at what shows up over and over and over, and I'll rely on it. And I'm going to see if I can convince you to do the same thing. Let's take a look at the fact that through all these studies, and we're talking about reviewing thousands of people across a broad spectrum. They have determined that weight loss on a diet is a great predictor of weight gain within 2 to 15 years. 2 to 15 years, you're going to weigh more than when you started that diet, and they researched it over a massive population of people, and that showed up as one of the top 2 indicators of weight gain, is that you decided you had to lose weight fast on a diet. So does that make you want to crash diet anymore? I don't know. It's up to you. But I'd like to see you avoid a check mark from hell, and that's what this show's all about, showing you what you need to do that. Okay? I'm going to spend a second on something that kind of just reinforces what we already said, and that is our industry, the weight loss, fitness, health industry, still insists that you must count your calories in order to lose weight. Okay? Calories in versus calories out. That's the only way you're ever going to get it done. Eat less, exercise more, and really watch the numbers and make sure you don't overeat each day. Well, this study should be all you ever need to stop thinking that way. This is a summary of every weight loss study for a period of about 20 years that involved 2 things. 2 things. Make notes, please. I hope you do. Number 1, a low-calorie diet, and number 2, behavioral therapy. These were not people who just decided at home, I'm going to try to lose weight. They were under constant supervision and guidance and given support and motivation. And let's see what happened to them. If they did a low-calorie diet, they lost a bunch of weight, and then within 5 years gained it all back and were above the starting point. If they did a very low-calorie diet, they lost even more weight faster. It's got to be a better diet, right? Not so much. They ended up at the exact same weight after 5 years as the people who did a low-calorie diet. So when you sign up for a counting calorie diet, science and I tell you you are signing up for weight gain over 5 years. It's your choice, but if that's what you're after is weight gain, counting calories is an excellent way to achieve it if you're interested in 5-year results. So what has been clinically proven to not work over 5 years' time? Tell me if this chorus sounds a little familiar, but you're probably thinking these are things that should be proven for weight loss and fitness. Restricting calories creates a check mark from hell. Restricting carbs, check mark from hell. Restricting fats, restricting food groups, restricting portions, and requiring exercise. All of those, without exception, over 5 years, and I am adamant, without exception, I am still waiting for somebody to present different findings. It doesn't exist that I'm aware of. Over 5 years, you will not be able to sustain any weight loss achieved if you follow those restrictive plans. So, I call my guidelines pain-free. This looks painful. Think about that. If we get away from these things, we can eliminate a lot of pain in our lives, and that's what the Eat Timing Diet is all about. But I'm not here to tell you about the Eat Timing Diet today. I am going to take a step back. Like I said, very special time to get fit. You are going to see what science decided to do to prove what works for weight loss. And this was in 2009. And this is going to involve a lot of me reading just what they said. I don't even want you to think about what you think about me. You may think I don't have the background. You may think I don't speak well. I talk too fast. Who knows what? But I am going to show you slide after slide of this slide. Let's start with this particular one. Look at the list of people involved with this study. Number 1, it was published in the most prestigious scientific journal available, the New England Journal of Medicine. Number 2, it was handled at Harvard University. Okay, it has every possible key prestige, all doctors, MDs, nutritionists, they all got together and they said, we are going to find the answers. We're tired of, well, let me move to the next slide. In the language, enough editorializing. Let's get to what the science people have to say and see if it means anything to you. They put this study together because they recognized the need for a large trial would overcome the limitations of previous trials. They were tired of the homeopaths saying this works and the MDs saying that works and every other guru out there having their opinion. We're going to put it on paper and review it double blind, all the proper protections, and make sure we see what really works and what doesn't. So they're going to overcome all the limitations. And so they actually go so far as to say that this study in 2009, which actually was held from 2004 to 2007, it was published in 2009, this study should be the benchmark. Whatever we find, we're going to be so careful and so thorough that clinicians should recommend it to their patients, and this should be what the government should be looking at for population-wide guidance. That's the focus. That's the depth they were going to in this study. They brought all the big boys together and said, let's get this solved. Okay, let's look at the details of the study. Effects on weight loss of energy-reduced diets and macronutrients. So they went with their game plan of reducing calories, but all kinds of different configurations. I need you to think about your weight loss efforts right now. I need you to think about who you are and how motivated and disciplined and successful or unsuccessful you've been in your weight loss in the past. And look at what this study did. 811 participants, that is gigantic for a clinical study. Okay? 1,638 people were screened. They threw out half the participants because they weren't motivated enough. They didn't exhibit the right characteristics of people that they psychologically profiled that would have the best chance of success. They stacked the deck. They wanted this to work, and they wanted to find out what would be the plan of nutrition that would get them there. Okay? People were all of BMI, body mass index, 25 to 40. That's very important. We're going to come back to that. And they were all motivated and screened through interviews and questionnaires. Very, very thorough screening process. As I said, 1 out of 2 people didn't even get to do the study. So they picked 4 different diet plans. Low fat, average protein. The only point from this particular slide to take away is look at the carb percentages. Low carb is all the rage these days, and these diets had, even the low carb versions were relatively high in carbs. 35 to 45% of their diets was carbohydrates. So those should be very, very flexible and allow people to succeed on a diet plan, one would think. Now, let's talk about what they did for these folks. Again, please personalize this. I encourage you, I'm begging you. How do you treat your diet efforts? Well, here's what these folks had available to them in this particular study. Number 1, expert group coaching 2 times a month. Actually, 3 times for the first half of the study, then 2 times from thereafter. Expert individual coaching every 8 weeks. Daily meal plans were provided. Web-based journaling was required. Everything science says should create weight loss was packaged into this one study. They only asked for 90 minutes of moderate exercise each week. That's all that they were asked to do, but get some exercise, which also is part of a proven plan for weight loss. Again, I'm asking you, what else would be in your plan that you would think would create weight loss that they didn't do in this study? I sure can't think of anything. Okay, what happened? What happened with all these tools and protections and skills in place? How did these folks do? 6 months, most lost weight. Everybody was excited. I'm losing weight. This plan works. This is wonderful. 2 years, all 4 diets had similar results. Didn't matter what plan they were on. They all were showing steady regain. Okay? Check mark from hell. How steady was that regain? Let's talk about that for a minute. Oh, okay, so they lost a bunch of weight, gained a little back, big deal, they'll lose more. Doesn't quite work that way, folks. I wish to God it did, but it doesn't. Over 80% of these highly motivated, highly assisted participants lost less than 10% of their start weight, or they gained weight after 2 years. 8 out of 10 had failed with every fail-safe provision they could possibly have to help them. And you literally are sitting there thinking you can do better? I don't. I hope I don't insult you when I say you could do better. I don't. I'm willing to trust science. They gave them everything, and 8 out of 10 had failed after 2 years. But the important thing is 10 out of 10 were regaining. It wasn't just 8 out of 10. Okay? So let's look at the highlights. Let's go to the highlight reel. And now this is the thoughts from the people who ran this study, who are the most respected obesity experts in the country and in the world. Okay, I'm just doing a little reading for you. Substantially diminished adherence after the first few months is typical in weight loss trials. Do you think they cited a few trials there? 5, 6, 8, all their citations. It's every trial that ever has happened. That also occurred in this study. Okay, next slide. The specific macronutrient content is of minor importance, as was suggested many years ago. That's on the next slide that we're going to cover. And that is to understand that it didn't matter what they chose to do. If they started restricting themselves, they were on a check mark from hell. Proven under incredible scrutiny and conditions that would be trusted in any scientific situation. And then the next discussion item. In most overweight people, it's futile to sustain a low intake of carbs. Well, I showed you their carb intake was way higher than low-carb diets I see out in the marketplace right now that suggest 20, 30% and you can still lose weight. You can't. You can't. The science is overwhelmingly clear. In 5 years, you'll gain weight for trying your low-carb diet. Okay? Are you the exception? It's possible, but science says probably not. And do you really want to invest 5 years of your life on something that has absolutely no support behind it? You have a coach. You've got plans. You've got science. You've got all these things behind you putting this together, and they can't succeed. And we can? I'm not so sure, folks. See what you decide after you see the rest of this. Let's look at the next finding from the study. This is, again, from the leading obesity experts in the world, not from me. These findings together point to behavioral factors rather than any macronutrient metabolism as the main influence on weight loss. What are they saying? It doesn't matter what diet you chose, you were going to be on a check mark from hell unless you found the behavioral strategies that would allow you to succeed. That's it. It didn't matter. Pick your diet, but unless you've got the right thoughts, you're going to gain it all back. What are those right thoughts? That's the next question, but we'll get to that. That's not today's discussion. You need to understand how the Eat Timing diet was built. It was built on what doesn't work has to be eliminated, cannot even be considered. If it never works in any study, why in the world would anybody want it on their diet plan? And that's what we're here to show you in this particular show of Time to Get Fit, the very special show, as I like to call it. Now, let's see what the editorial from, again, one of the leading experts in the world on obesity who spent only a career doing this. I know we all have opinions that our diet works well for us when it worked, but here's what this guy has to say, Martin Catan. The only effective alternative we have at present for halting the obesity epidemic is large-scale gastric surgery. The guy has studied every study. He's watched people who were motivated and coached on every single diet. His conclusion? You better go get gastric surgery if you ever hope to overcome your obesity. That's what he's telling you. Now, again, whose opinion do you trust more? His or yours or mine? I'm going with his. You're welcome to believe what you choose to believe, but I like seeing what's been happening for people that have been studied extensively, and I want to follow what may work that didn't work. If it worked for them, I want to follow it, but this didn't work for them. Got to find some other answers. So what's the conclusion? What's the takeaway from the New England Journal of Medicine study of studies that's never been challenged, never been refuted? Okay, all restrictive diets are checkmark from hell diets. So as soon as you decide that you're going to cut this out or cut that out, you're going to gain weight, or you're not going to be able to keep any weight you lost off. Again, take your choice in the matter. If you decide you're the exception, I sure hope you are, and I'm behind you 100%. I'll cheer you all the way. Science is not on your side. Period. So what else is facing us? That's a massive challenge. What a downer, right? I tell you, there's no way you can lose weight on these diets. Well, maybe it's a downer, but maybe it's actually the best news you've ever heard. Let's get to that in a minute. First, let's see what the media did with this study. Okay, they produced a study that says everybody's gaining weight within 2 years, and most of them have gained it all back, and they're all going to within 5 years. But the media, what's the best diet? Eat less food. You know, in a 4-diet study, all lost weight if they watch their calories. You know, they spin it. They're not going to lose Weight Watchers as an advertiser. They're not going to lose these massive dollars that they can get in revenues and say, no diet works. No, they went the exact opposite and said, well, it worked for 2 years, so it must work. But can you get the message tonight that if you're only interested in losing weight for 2 years, never watch me again. You're good. All the plans out there could probably help you. If you'd like to see weight loss that you achieve sustained for beyond 2 years, stop watching them. That would be your stronger move because they've got nothing that can show the results that you need to get where you're trying to go. So again, these plans are out here. You've got Consumer Reports reviewing them every year and saying which one's the best plan. They're comparing apples to apples and saying this plan's better this year and they modified this plan, and absolutely none of them have any support that they'll last. But the entire media buys in to what everybody sees in the news. Some celebrity lost weight, or